I live in Taiwan. I work as a manager in a footwear manufacturing company, and I make about 65,000 a year. I work as a manager in my company, and I work with cross-functional teams. And sometimes I have a joke. The things I do the most is attending meetings, and meetings with our customers, meeting with our internal teams, or I do a lot of presentation. And since I'm in this kind of department to oversee many operations in my company, so I get to work with many people. I get to work with, I would say, collaborate and coordinate across teams, and that's what I do. But basically, a lot of meetings, a lot of presentation, a lot of emailing. So basically, like as the Peter Drucker said, this is type of the intellectual worker. Well, I wouldn't say it's very intellectual, but it definitely is using a lot of your brain to work. And most of the time, I sit in meeting rooms or sit in my office and just doing office work, just thinking, compiling, writing, or talking and listening to other people. So that's what I do. And my company, although we are based in Taiwan, but since, I think probably 15 years ago, labor was getting intensively more expensive. I would say maybe 15, 20 years ago. So here in Taiwan, a lot of the manufacturing factories have been relocated to southeastern countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, and before it was China. So even though I'm headquartered in Taiwan, but I get to travel a lot to our factories to see the production line and to connect with my counterparts at the factory. So that's what I do. So in my line of work, a lot of people who join this footwear manufacturing business, if they want to stay in Taiwan, they don't have much choices. As I mentioned, a lot of factories have been relocated, and only a few of them are still headquartered in Taiwan. So many of my colleagues, when they join this company, if they can endure the first few years, in this business, and then they probably will stay until their retirement. So the seniority is pretty high. Like some of my colleagues, many of them have been with this company for over 15 or over 20 years of working experience. So, well, that's it. It's very special line of business, and the company is really low key, and the founder is really low key too. So many of people don't even know in Taiwan. Well, we are a huge company. Well, actually, there are other footwear manufacturing companies all founded in Taiwan and become a global gigantic corporation, a global operation network. But we're really low key. So most of the time when people think about Taiwan, they think about like electronic industry, they think about AI, they think about TSMC, right? But not actually, we are a hidden industry. Well, so that's what I do. I'm making 65,000 a year. I would say that is a comfortable salary here in Taiwan if you're not considering buying a house anytime soon, because the mortgages here, especially in the major cities in Taipei and in Hsinchu, it's really crazy. It's very, very expensive compared how much you can make and compare how much people make here in Taiwan. But my salary, I would say, is still, you're able to sustain a cozy lifestyle. And I wouldn't say this is really high because a lot of people are making much more, particularly people in the technology industry, technology sector, they're making much more. But I would say this is probably within the 10% of top earnings in Taiwan. I was really lucky and fortunate, and sometimes actually I do have this kind of what do you say, imposter syndrome, because I consider myself pretty lucky being able to transit smoothly from my previous job and to become a businessman, to become a corporate man. I used to be a struggling musician. I used to be a teacher, a very low-paying part-time teacher in college and in these kind of cram schools. And only until very late in life, I decided, hey, I need to make a change. So I quit everything and I joined the corporation and I start afresh. So when I took on this job, I was already in my early 30s or 30-something. And many of my peers who are the same level as I, who climbed the corporate hierarchy, the corporate ladder, they have been with this company, more than 15 years. And I was, by now, but back then, they were still much senior than I was. So I was lucky to get to be able to maybe I did pour my mind and soul into this work and trying to survive, trying to get promoted, trying to get recognized. But basically that's what I do. But so that's what I make. And actually I don't have an intention to make much more right now because climbing the ladder, the difficult part is the higher you climb, the more difficult for you to get to the next level. And the higher you climb, there's astronomically more and more things that are not work directly related involved in your workday. What I'm saying is, for example, the office politics and many of the relationships, complicated relationship to maintain and everything. And sometimes when you are far away from the basics, and many of the things you do are not directly value added in terms of, for example, if you are a footwear shoemaker in our production line, what you do is to add value into the manufacturing process of a shoe, right? So many of the things what I do is sort of like a strategy-wise or about managerial stuff. And sometimes you feel it could be floating. It could be feel like a lot of cloud work, working in the cloud. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that my work doesn't have value. Yes. Point out clear direction and coordinate between functions and departments, and working with headquarters, and we also have headquarters. But anyway, there's a lot of things to do and a lot of skill you can learn as coordination, as strategic thinking. But sometimes it is really far away from the handiwork, far away from being able to do the real work. I remember there was a interview of Elon Musk, and he said that what he does is that he spends like 80% of his work time on engineering. He's got so many companies, right? Like Tesla, Starlink, and Neuralink, and SpaceX, right? And as a CEO, he's already a CEO, and he spends most of his time talking about fixing a product problem, fixing an engineering problem and come up with a solution. And maybe the rest 20 is about managerial stuff, about other paperwork. But I think that is and that is why his companies can become outstanding, can become exceptional, because they spend most of their time fixing the product problems. So coming back to what I do here, I used to be a project manager in engineering department before I jumped to my current department, and we spend a lot of time talking about automation, talk about fixing the manufacturing process problems, come up with creative solutions, and trying to make the solutions more a better ROI and better efficiency, and replacing the manual work and so on. I think that was more about putting real work and you can very easily quantify your contribution to the industry or to the company, because what you make is directly linked to your end product. Having said that, I think the higher you climb, you get so used to that actually there are a lot of complex things that you need to manage, especially if you are overseeing a lot of departments, and there are many things that can go wrong, and there are many things that people disagree with. So there will be people who, as a collaborator, people who as a coordinator, and to facilitate this communication. And when there's a dispute and there's people cannot make decisions, or people are against each other, then you need to make a sound judgment whether to decide or to report up to my manager, which is the head of the business unit. So that's what I do. But if you said, do I miss my old work? I believe so. But life sometimes is just it is the sacrifice, it is the compromise to sustain this income. I continue doing what I do. And long time ago, when I was a musician, life is there's a lot of freedom, there's a lot of liberty. You can decide when you want to work, when you have the classes, when you go to gigs, or when you go to schools. It's more flexible a lot, and there's a lot of open space, open time in your schedule in a day, and that is good. But at the end, it is not sustainable to feed the company, to feed the family, to feed yourself, and there wasn't a lot of prosperous outlook in the future. So I become a corporate man, and until now, in 2025, I'm still employed. I always stay employed throughout my adult life. So that's what I do, and so that's what I do